Elle Woods once proved something the academic world was absolutely not ready to hear. You can walk into a room wearing pink, carrying a tiny dog, smiling like you just stepped out of a shampoo commercial, and still outsmart half the people in the building. And honestly, that energy is exactly what most students are missing. Because somewhere along the way, school convinced everyone that being smart has to feel miserable. Like if you're not stressed, exhausted, and slightly emotionally unstable during exam week, you must not be trying hard enough. You're supposed to look overwhelmed. You're supposed to panic. You're supposed to whisper, "I'm going to fail," every 3 minutes like it's part of the academic ritual. But Elle Woods walked into one of the most intimidating environments possible and said, in the politest and most iconic way imaginable, "Actually, I belong here." And that mindset, that is the beginning of becoming an academic weapon. Not fear, not panic, not staring at your notes at 2 a.m. hoping knowledge will magically absorb through eye contact. Confidence. Now let's be clear about something. The Elle Woods mindset isn't about pretending everything is easy. It's about refusing to shrink yourself just because something is difficult. Most students experience one confusing lecture and immediately enter what I like to call the academic identity crisis. Suddenly, the thoughts begin. Maybe I'm just bad at this subject. Maybe everyone else understands except me. Maybe I should simply disappear into the floor. Very dramatic. Very relatable. But here's the thing. Academic weapons don't interpret confusion as failure. They interpret confusion as information, like a little message from their brain saying, "Interesting. We don't understand this yet." And that tiny word, "yet," changes everything. Because intelligence isn't a fixed personality trait, it's a skill, a trainable skill. And the students who become incredibly good at learning usually aren't the ones who understood everything immediately. They're the ones who were stubborn enough to stay curious when things got complicated. Now here's where the Elle Woods energy becomes important, because she didn't just work hard. She worked hard without losing her personality. And that might sound small, but it actually changes everything. Most students treat studying like punishment, like something they must survive before they're allowed to enjoy life again. But your brain works much better when you don't hate the process. Which is why many academic weapons create little systems that make studying feel nice. A comfortable desk, notes that actually make sense, highlighters that make you weirdly happy, maybe a drink nearby, maybe music that helps you focus. Nothing extreme, just enough structure so your brain doesn't feel like it's studying inside a tornado. Because chaos is the real enemy of learning. You can't understand complex ideas when your mind is busy panicking. And panic is basically the national language of exam season. You know the scene. Someone suddenly opens the group chat. "Wait, the exam is tomorrow." Immediately the messages explode. "Did we have to study chapter 7? I thought the test was next week." I'm actually doomed. Meanwhile, there's always one student calmly reviewing their notes like it's a completely normal Tuesday. That student isn't relaxed because they're magically smarter. They're relaxed because they built habits earlier. Small habits, reviewing notes after class, understanding concepts instead of memorizing random sentences, practicing problems before the night of the exam. Nothing glamorous, just consistent. And consistency is secretly one of the most powerful academic skills in the world. Break. Now let's talk about something extremely important. Main character energy. Yes, this matters more than people think. Because the way you see yourself in school quietly shapes how you behave. If you constantly think of yourself as the student who barely survives every test, your brain will act accordingly. But if you start seeing yourself as someone who is actively building intelligence, something shifts. You ask more questions. You pay closer attention. You give your brain time to actually understand things. Learning stops feeling like judgment. It starts feeling like progress. And that shift is powerful. Because suddenly mistakes stop being embarrassing. They become useful. Every wrong answer tells you exactly what your brain needs to practice next. Academic weapons treat mistakes like clues. "Oh, interesting, I keep messing up this type of problem. Time to practice that exact thing." Now here's a secret most top students won't tell you. They're not focused all the time. Nobody is. Their brain wanders. They get distracted. Sometimes they open a textbook and immediately forget why they opened it. completely normal. The difference is that they know how to return to focus. And that skill is becoming more important every year because attention is limited. If your phone is buzzing every 20 seconds, your brain never enters deep thinking mode. And deep thinking is where real understanding happens, which is why many academic weapons have tiny focus rituals. Phone away, notes open, one topic at a time, not for 8 hours, just focused blocks of time. Because your brain works best with clear tasks and clear breaks. And yes, breaks matter. Rest is not laziness. Rest is part of learning. Your brain actually processes information when you step away, which is why studying for 40 minutes and then taking a short walk can be far more effective than forcing yourself to sit for 4 hours while your brain slowly melts. Another very Elle Woods trait is confidence during challenges. Remember how she didn't panic every time someone doubted her? She stayed curious, calm, focused on improving. That attitude is incredibly useful in school because difficult subjects don't test your intelligence nearly as much as they test your patience. Anyone can feel smart when something is easy. The real growth happens when you stay engaged even when things are confusing. And the funny part? That persistence compounds. Every time you push through confusion, your brain becomes better at solving problems. Patterns become easier to recognize. Concepts start connecting, and eventually something surprising happens. You become the calm student during exam week, the one everyone else looks at suspiciously. How are you not panicking right now? And the answer is simple: preparation. Not perfect preparation, just consistent preparation. Break because the academic weapon mindset isn't about becoming a perfect student. It's about becoming a reliable one. Reliable curiosity, reliable effort, reliable focus. And when you combine that with a little personality and confidence, you get something very powerful. A student who is both intelligent and interesting. Someone who enjoys learning instead of fearing it. Someone who treats challenges like puzzles instead of threats. And honestly, that's the real legacy of the mindset that Elle Woods represents. She didn't just prove she was capable. She proved that intelligence doesn't require you to erase who you are. You can be stylish and smart, confident and curious, ambitious and still kind to yourself when things get difficult. Very Elle Woods, very iconic, and honestly, very achievable.